Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. We're here today with special guest, Rhonda Halbert, who's here to share with us the spirituality that inspired the hot new release, as seen on the Kelly Clarkson Show, Caretaker. Now, Rhonda co-authored this book with her husband, Jason, and together they are R.J. Halbert, the authors of Caretaker. After homeschooling their two children around the world on a tour bus, Rhonda Halbert has spent the past 10 years as a successful music and television manager, guiding her clients' relationships with labels, networks, and producers. She's also a published photographer, music supervisor, passionate cook, garden enthusiast, and spiritual practitioner. Well, I can't tell you how much I've been looking forward to this interview, so let's welcome Rhonda Halbert.
Thank you, Marianne. I'm so glad to be back.
Oh my goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to really dive into not only this book, Caretaker, but the work that you do. So I have to ask you, let's just start from the beginning. So there's
Sure.
this spiritual undertone within the book and this
Yeah.
spiritual path that you've been following. Why don't you share a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. Life has been super challenging. I would say for the past 10 years. And starting off with my daughter was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer when she was 16. And that really just knocked me off my feet, of course. And in that process of, dealing with, the grief of that, the weight of that, I just went on a deep dive spiritual journey to search for hope, to search for an answer. That was a lot to hang on to and to deal with when phone call after phone call from doctors um, were negative upon negative upon negative. We didn't really get a good report on my daughter for well over 2 years. And the worst phone call I got was the surgeon was calling me the day before the scheduled surgery, which was my daughter's second surgery because the first one didn't get all the cancer. And that phone call was probably one of my darkest moments. Ooh, I can feel myself getting choked up just remembering it. It was so sad. The doctor called and just said, "Well, I just don't know what to tell you. I don't know what's going to kill her first, the cancer or the surgery." And
Oh, wow.
he gave me a choice of how did we want to do the surgery because the surgery was so intense. It was going to be 12 hours and they were going to have to rotate nursing staff, other doctors. For 12 hours straight, she was going to be under the knife. And so it was so risky that he was just like, I don't know if you want to do this. And I just, my husband and I, we sat there just in complete shock, going, okay, we don't have an answer right now after you just dumped this on us. But when we show up in the morning, we'll give you our answer. And we showed up in the morning and it was such a horrific decision of which kind of version of death do I want to speak over my daughter? And we struggled and struggled and just could not come up with any kind of good way to make this choice for our daughter. And so, unfortunately, my daughter sat up from the bed and she just said, "Look, take it all, do what you got to do because I do not want to come back here again." And so she made the decision. And it was just in that moment that I think my whole world just crumbled. And I thought, oh my gosh, like this is the end of happiness. This is the end of hope. And it's just so extremely dark. So this took me on a journey of trying to find hope again. And in that process, I found what is called transformation prayer and meditation. And what transformation prayer and meditation is it's a form of you first well, you find out what it is that you're struggling with. And it can be physical, it can be mental, it can be emotional, because all those things can be tied into a certain core of what we're believing. And most of the time, 99% of the time in my experience, we're usually believing a lie about something. So for me, the lie that really deposited in that moment is, I was going to lose my daughter. That was the lie. The lie was there was no hope. This is the end. And yes, I know that that was a real risk, and that doesn't necessarily make that a lie. But I think people who are listening to this, when you've experienced this, you understand what I mean by it just becomes a solid rock of hardness that just gets deposited into your soul. And it's like you can't come out of it. You can't remove it. You can't remove the weight of it. That's what I'm talking about, that it was just this solid rock of a lie that this was the end. And I had to go on this journey of figuring out that I had been carrying around this lie within me, and it was affecting everything in my life. It was affecting my health. It was affecting my mental state. I was in a deep depression. It was affecting my relationships with my friends and my family. It was it was like slowly but surely I myself started to die. It was like I took on the weight of that word death, and I was allowing it to just eat away at me. So when I found transformation, prayer, and meditation, what I learned is that was a lie that I completely absorbed into my body, and it was affecting me. And what I learned was there's a way out. And it really, truly saved my life. I don't know if you want me to go into like what the process is. I can do that. But that's ultimately what transformed my life. And because it transformed my life so miraculously, when my husband and I wrote this book, Caretaker, I wanted to deposit some of that truth into this book and deposit some of that hope into the darkness that this book touches on. And my hope is part of writing this book actually continued that transformation for me. And my hope was that there was some words that I've been able to write down and put into a book form and get it out to the world, and maybe, just maybe, deposit a little bit of hope, a little bit of truth, maybe a little bit of freedom for someone who reads it. Maybe they will connect with what I experienced, and they can also themselves find a little bit of that for themselves.
Well, I would say a lot of people are connecting with that because just the book's popularity just to begin with. But what a blessing that is to have something like that incorporated into, of all things, a fiction book, and being
Yeah.
able to allow our imagination and our healing to kind of cultivate at the same time.
Yeah, and that's really, I think, what's kind of unique. If I can say that about my own book, that sounds weird. But I think that's what's unique about the book is this is not an autobiography. This is not my life story. This is a book that's completely fiction, and it's based on an external story that I was able to process a lot of pain and hurt, um, and get through to the other side to my healing through writing this external story. I felt like it was therapeutic at the time, but I honestly wasn't sure. I actually had, yeah, I really hadn't even started into getting into therapy until after the book was written, but I kind of knew that this book was therapy for me. So I took the book to my therapist when I started seeing him after I wrote the book, and just said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And he read it, and he just came back and he was like, "Okay, so you just basically did a form of therapy on yourself without even knowing it, and that is the process of." Creating something external and then processing your life, your feelings, your emotions and your healing through that external object, whatever it is. And so it can be a book, it can be painting, it can be music. There's all forms of ways that you can externalize something and be able to process it from a safe distance. And that's basically what I was doing for me, is the pain that I was going through was so deep that it felt safer to process through something fictional, something outside of me, but yet close enough for me to see it and to understand it.
How long did it take for you to really understand the process of transformational prayer and meditation?
Um, well, I had someone walk me through it, um, and it took maybe it took maybe a couple of hours. There was a lot of crying involved. Um, and in that couple of hours, I mean, wow, my eyes were opened and I latched onto it and I was like, whatever this is, I want to know how to do this. I want to be able to do this again for myself. And it is always my heart's desire to help other people. So I would love to learn how to do this and do this for other people. So I've been through sessions for myself several times. And then I went to the training, which there's books out there, there's conferences out there. And I just attended several conferences, did the books, and went through all the program. And I just started, I know it sounds really weird, but I just started practicing it on my family. I think my family saw the radical change in me. I think they saw my eyes light up again, and I think they saw hope come back. And so I think it was just an example for them, because now my whole family is going through this same trauma that I'm going through. I'm not the only one. And so I think it just brought them hope just to see the transformation for me. So they allowed me to walk through some of the struggles in their own life with them. And to my shock, it actually worked. Like, I was just surprised. I don't know why I'm surprised. This has been proven over and over, but I think I'm just always shocked at myself that I can actually do it. So I don't know. It took maybe about a year for me to truly build my confidence to um, offer it to other people as well. I don't advertise. I don't charge. Like, this is not like a session or anything. This is just, if somebody comes into my life and, we become connected and I can see a sticking point or a place where they're tripping up or a place where they're really wounded and might even be, bleeding out and emotionally. I usually will just kind of go, I kind of have an answer for that. And some people are okay with it. And some people are like, I think I'll pass.
Well, do you know what? And everyone that needs this type of work will resonate with it, and those that don't leave it behind, and they go on and find whatever works for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm not saying it is for everyone. I think it will work on everyone, but everybody needs to find their path of how they're willing to walk out healing. And everybody does that differently. And so there are some people that um, attract to this quite easily. My husband was actually the last one to really be convinced to even give it a try. He's just definitely more hesitant. He doesn't like his ideas and interactions with the spirit world. He's very, very resistant to. He's like, okay, look, I believe in angels, I believe in demons, but I don't want to interact with them. He's like, leave them on the other side. And I'm just the complete opposite. I'm like, oh no, I know there's a spirit world, and I know that it can affect the physical world, and I've seen it in my own life, and I I feel like there's a power that we are closing our eyes to, sometimes choosing to be ignorant to. And I'm just one of those people where I'm not afraid to find that power and use it for good and use it for freedom and use it for hope. So there are a lot of people out there who are not going to be attracted to this concept, but I do think that there are some out there who will be.
So, why don't you share a little bit about what this is? What does it look like? And do we have to have certain beliefs?
No, you actually don't have to have certain beliefs. I guess maybe believing that there is a spirit world is probably the basis. If you don't believe that, then this is just definitely not for you. Um, I would encourage it to be a positive belief in the spirit world. I'm not into dark stuff, that's not what this is about. Um, I from my belief, I believe that there is an ultimate creator. Like there is a power that has created this very intricate, detailed universe and all the living creatures that live on it. And I think that this um, creator is where we gain our hope and our happiness and our freedom. I think it's a good and positive power. And that's what I tap into. So I feel like if you can gel with that, then this is a good place to start. So basically, I'll just give myself as an example, so as to not, you know, talk about somebody else's issues that I've dealt with, but I don't mind exposing myself. So for myself, I came up in a very volatile family, verbally abusive, sometimes physically abusive, and I learned at a very young age that anger was the answer to everything. And so basically adopted that myself and just had major, major anger issues my entire life. And it was devastating at times. And it's really crazy what kind of anger this would be because I could actually see myself in third person and watch myself being so irrational and uncontrollable and going, Rhonda, what are you doing? Like, you've got to stop that. And yet I had no control over it. And it was probably the true definition of rage, but it was all I ever knew and didn't know how to get out of it. So when I was first introduced to this transformation, prayer, and meditation, this is the thing that I brought to the table of this is what I want to deal with. I want to get rid of this. This is tripping me up. This is messing up my life. This is destroying relationships. And I know that I'm not this person, but I can't seem to control it. So when I had my first session dealing with anger, basically the person that walked me through it, what they do is they just ask you basic questions, and this is the part that is kind of like therapy. Um, you're not necessarily talking about the other person's problem as the leader in the room. You're just trying to get that person to get to the core of where, for me, that anger is coming from. So the leader in the room will just ask a lot of basic questions, leading you to, well, does this feel true? And does this feel true? And, depending on your yes or no answers, the leader will know how to get you, to that core. And when they find the core, then they ask you questions like, does it feel true that you have uncontrollable rage because of, and then fill in the blank. And if that statement feels true, then you've hit the core. And that is where your rage is coming from, or your anger, or whatever. It could be abandonment, it could be un, irrational fear, or it could be, depression, whatever it is. But again, for me, it was anger. And when you're able to get to that point to say, yes, this is true, or this is how I think it is true, then you know that you've hit the core. And so when you're in that space, the leader basically just opens the space to say, okay, so I want you to close your eyes and let's meditate and quiet your mind and let's sit and let's listen. Because I do believe that there is this ultimate creator. I believe this creator actually speaks. And I think that from the spirit world, we can hear things. And so in those moments when we sit and meditate and listen, you can actually get visions. You can go to a memory. And that tends to be the common thing is people will go to a memory where this problem first started. So for me, the core was anger, and it first started when I was a child. And my memory popped up instantly of where and when, and I could see myself reliving this memory in my mind. And I'm a super emotional person. So I just started weeping because it connected me to what I call little Rhonda. And little Rhonda was just so broken and so vulnerable in that moment and believed this lie about herself that I carried on all the way through adulthood. And it affected all my decisions. And it affected a lot of my relationships. And it affected my health. And it affected everything about me. But it came from a moment in my life when I was 6 years old. And that's the part that blows my mind is, as adults, we think that we grow up and, right, we become responsible adults. But there are so many of us that have gone through so much trauma in their lives that we can tend to get stuck in those moments that the trauma happens. So anyway, this is what happened to me. I was immediately brought to the memory, and I just wept. My heart was so broken for that little girl. And then I sat there, cried it out, kind of like grieving the process. And then I sat in silence, and the leader in the room just really stays silent the whole time. I'm just visualizing and then verbalizing and just speaking it out. And then I sat real quiet, and all of a sudden, it was like words of truth just came to me so gently and so purely. And it was words of truth that spoke over that lie of I did not need to be angry. I did not, my anger, here's getting to the truth here. My anger was my protection because I felt like I was not protected as a kid. And the truth came to me of, oh no, you do not need to protect yourself. You do not need to protect yourself like that. You are loved and you are valued and you are good. And all those truthful, simple phrases just flipped my mind. And that's where the transformation comes from because it was a universal truth. We are all loved and we are all valued. We just lose sight of that sometimes. And that's where we get tripped up a lot. So for me, that truth just got deposited in such a beautiful way. Again, just weeping with the knowledge of receiving that and receiving it into my soul. It's not just something that I can believe with my brain, but it's when my brain and my heart connect you instantly know there's a depth that can't be erased. Like this moment actually happened and it's transforming me. And it did, it was instant. And then all of a sudden, all the tears stopped and there was complete peace. My soul was finally at peace because I accepted the real truth of knowing that I am loved and there is good in me and that I don't have to protect myself. And it changed my entire life. I became a completely different person. I will jokingly to my family reference old Rhonda and the new Rhonda because it was just a complete different mindset of seeing the world through eyes of peace, through eyes of rest, not feeling like I have to defend myself all the time, not feeling like I've got to protect myself either physically or emotionally. Now, the family dynamic didn't change. You grow up and some people can choose to change and some people don't choose to change. And in my adulthood, my family dynamic didn't change. And so you learn once you receive this um, peaceful wisdom, you learn how to protect yourself in a different way. And then you build boundaries and you do life in a different way to protect what you now know to be true. And there's healthy ways of doing that. And life has just gotten so much better for me. And literally, I know words are so hard to describe what you feel, but a complete shift, a complete transformation is really the true word for it. And my life has just been so much better since. The amazing thing is I think that we're all works in progress. So I do find other things in my life that I get tripped up on. And now that I'm fully aware of this practice, I would say 75% of the time I can actually walk myself through it because I know the steps. But depending on how deep the wounding, how deep the lie is, how deep that core goes, sometimes I can't do it myself. And it's absolutely okay, to reach out to someone and ask for help and help guidance, because some of these wounds are pretty deep.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Rhonda Halbert in regards to the spirituality behind Caretaker. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
It's one thing to become attached to your perfect home, but what do you do when that home becomes attached to you? A family in dire need of a fresh start, a mysterious house tied to the past. Buried deep within the foundation of the old Far Hill Manor lies a centuries-old secret. Dark forces or something stronger just waiting to be discovered. Caretaker, a supernatural thriller by breakout authors R.J. Halbert.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest, Rhonda Halbert, who's sharing with us the spirituality behind the hot new release, Caretaker. Did you find that once you unraveled this one core wound, that maybe other situations similar kind of unraveled as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think I envision those things as roots, and roots get intertwined. And I think sometimes when you pull up one, especially for me, that one was so deep in so much the core of who I was as a young kid. That one had to come from deep within. And so I think that it was intertwined with many other things that I struggled with. Now, I wasn't able to unravel those things quickly because sometimes it's hard to get to the root of it. Sometimes it takes a while to understand, like you can pull back. It's like kind of like an onion, I guess. You can pull back layers and you think, oh, okay, yeah, now I see why I do that. And then you can change your mindset, practice better thoughts, better, words about a situation. But then you find yourself tripping up over it again, and you're like, wait, I thought I dealt with that. And then you realize, oh, there's another layer. So sometimes it can be immediate, and then sometimes it's a process. But yes, I do believe that when you start pulling up those hard ones, it really does start to shift the things down there that, that actually don't belong in you, with you, however you want to envision it. And you weren't meant to carry it. So I do think that this is just one of those processes of just helping you realize that, oh, that I don't have to carry that anymore. That's just old baggage, and learning what that looks like to let it go. And then I think the second part of that is breaking your old habits. I believe words have power. I believe that you can speak curses, and I believe that you can speak blessings. I believe that you can speak life, and I believe that you can speak death. And I think when you learn that about yourself, about myself, I think the next step is to learn how to break the bad habit. So for me, the rage was the bad habit. And I would let myself go there, and I would let myself say things. And as I received truth over that and then received healing over that, now it's a matter of breaking that habit and not repeating the cycle, because it is a habit. And what did they say? It takes like um gosh, I can't remember the statistics, but it's like if you try something 10 times, you can either break a habit or learn something new. And that's what it is in situations like this, that you've been in a lifestyle of a negative habit for so long. You've got to figure out how to break it. So the practice of catching yourself and going, wait, that is not how I want to speak. That is not how I want to think. I let go of all of that. And you pause, you think about it, and you go, no, I'm not going to go down that path again. And the more and more you do that, the less and less it becomes a trip for you. Immediately after, my first session with anger, the first time something set me off, did I explode? Yep, absolutely I did, because it's a bad habit. But I was able to respond in a different way. And I was able to immediately catch myself and go, whoa, that is not who I am now. I don't believe in that anymore. And I'm going to do it differently. And doing that over and over and over causes it now to where, man, it takes a lot to rattle me now. It's actually harder for me to get to that point of rage, and I'm able to step into a moment and just let things be. Like, okay, I can actually sort things out and go, is that my problem or is that your problem? And getting that perspective allows me to know how I'm supposed to react. So, yeah, I think what we have to do is we have to learn to change the bad habit after we've received the wisdom, the knowledge, the transformation, and it ultimately changes your whole lifestyle over the long run.
It's so interesting how that all comes together. I mean, there's so many points I want to touch right now. I think one is, how often do we have somebody that says something and they say something negative to us and we react,
Mhm.
instead of coming to a place of being able to you just kind of process and respond. But I love how you ask, is this mine or is this yours?
Right. Well, I've had to, because that is a what I would call like a sensitive button for me. And now that I know that about myself, it's just again learning to put up healthy boundaries. So that's a boundary for me. That's me learning, oh, is that a sensitivity in me, or is that a lack on your part? And if I can assess the situation, what I'm doing is I'm actually questioning myself first. So that takes a moment of humility. that takes a moment of going, am I the problem? And we've got to be willing to do that. I think if everyone in the world could look at ourselves first and go, am I the problem? Instead of pointing fingers at other people, I think the world would change in such a beautiful and positive way. So that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'm trying to teach is let's look at ourselves first and assess, is this a me thing? Is this a trigger for me? Did I respond poorly? Or if that's not the case, then we can look at the other person, and you've got to do it without judgment. You look at the other person and go, "Oh, I think that's their issue." But that's okay. We'll let them deal with it. And when you're able to do that, there's such a freedom in that. You're not carrying your own baggage and you're not carrying their baggage. And it is so much easier to get through life. I think the number one lesson that I've always tried to teach my kids and my family is we got to be careful about pointing the finger at other people, because when we point one finger at other people, there are three more fingers pointing back at us. And we really need to be aware of that. A lot of times when we point fingers at people, it's because it's triggering something in us, but you have to become aware of it. And so for me, what I find in this spiritual journey is that I am more and more sensitive to spiritual things. I am more and more sensitive to emotional things, and emotions are tied to your beliefs. If something's triggered in you, if you all of a sudden have, this sense of, oh my gosh, that person just threatened me with their words. Okay, did they just threaten you, or are you responding out of something that you believe? And that core belief might be a lie. And that's how you get to, that step of freedom is assessing yourself, being willing to assess yourself and go, is this a lie in me? What did that person really say? Like, were they attacking me or not? And when you can truly do that, I think that you just get a better perspective. And the more that you can have a better perspective of yourself, I think you can walk in freedom, walk in joy, walk in happiness. And I've had 10 years of a lot of misery. I've had 10 years of struggles, of trauma. It started off 10 years ago. Thankfully, my daughter is 10 years cancer free now. She survived and is living a good and healthy life right now. But that 10 years has been like the worst 10 years of my life. And I am happy to say I've just turned 50. And out of those 50 years, 10 of them have been horrible. And after cancer, we lost our dear, my father-in-law, my children's grandfather. Oh my gosh, he was a precious person. And then during COVID, which everybody experienced the trauma of that alone, oh my goodness, I've done a lot of sessions because of COVID, not just on myself, but for other people as well, because there were a lot of lies that we accepted and embraced during COVID, but also while the world was locked down and separated from each other and not supporting each other. I was walking out the death of my mother through a horrible disease called Lewy body dementia. One of the worst diseases I think a human could ever go through. And then I lost a lot of family through cancer and COVID. And then I lost my home to a flood in 2021. And it was completely irreparable. I'm having to tear it down and rebuild from scratch. And this was mine and my husband's ultimate dream home. This was something that we invested in and knew this is where we're going to see our grandkids. And all of that was taken away from us. And then I lost a nephew through this random situation that was so tragic. He was in his apartment just watching TV, and the apartment next door was having a fight, and someone pulled a gun. The gun went off. It went through my nephew's apartment, shot him in the head, and he died. And it was just so random. And so that was just gut-wrenching and devastating. And then lose more people to COVID. And then my mother-in-law gets diagnosed with a brain tumor. And then we lose her in 2022, and and all of that happened within 2 years. That was 2020 to 2022. And I really just found myself some days going, okay, I just can't do this anymore. I just can't breathe. I can't go through grief one more time. And the only thing that really got me through this was doing this practice of transforming my mind, renewing my mind over and over, and not allowing that word of death, that experience of death and grief take me over. And once again, I was faced with it and had to confront it and find that place of stability of going, no, that is not the truth for my life. I was not made to carry death. I was not made to carry grief. I was actually made to carry joy. I was actually made to carry peace. I was actually made to carry hope. And I go through those sessions of taking what I know to be the lie in my life and sit and meditate and allow the truth to come to me, whether, again, it be by a vision or by hearing the words in my thoughts. And trust me, I don't think I am smart enough to have those thoughts be my own thoughts. I really do think there is an ultimate creator who's smarter than me and more truthful than me and wiser than me. So that's what I rely on, is waiting for those moments to have that truth come to me. And then I apply that. And it is, for me, a continual growth. I don't think I'm ever done. I probably won't ever be done until the day that it is time for me to go. So in the process, I just want to continue to be a better person. I want to continue to live freer. I want to be rid of my baggage. And I want my life to affect other people's lives in a positive way. And the only way I think I can do that is by changing my life and starting with me.
Well, there are no words. I am just so sorry for all of your losses. That is just, I mean, it's so overwhelming. That could really take someone down, and you really took that and made major shifts from that.
Yes. Yes. It was either that or that. I don't like to speak negatively, but that really was the closest I got to just going, okay, I'm done with life. That's a lot. And I give up. And there were many, many times I wanted to give up. But I have a loving family, and I have an incredible community of people who actually care. And I didn't want to let those people down. So to do that, it meant going back to that place of hearing those truths again over and over until it fully deposits and it transforms your mind. And I know I keep saying that over and over, but that's what it takes. It takes going to the positive. Words are so powerful. We really, as humans here on earth who speak to each other face to face, we need to be kinder with our words. We can actually speak negativity over people. Okay, let's take, for example, like, I feel like the majority of us, we've all heard the stories about when you grow plants, you could actually take a plant and you could speak love over a plant, or you could speak joy over a plant, or you could sing a song over a plant, and you could actually watch that plant improve. Like, that's been proven science. You can also take that same plant and you can curse at it, you can yell at it, you can play, dark, moody music over it, and you can actually watch that plant start to die. All of this is scientifically proven. So, if we can do that to plants, what can we do to other humans? Have we actually taken the time to think about that? So, what I really have learned through this whole transformation for me is how powerful we are as humans. We truly are powerful beings. And that power comes from the spirit world. So what I've decided that I wanted to do is I want to take that power that I know that I have, and I want to use it for good. And I want to not only change my life, but I want to change the life of others around me. So if we could do that as humans, why aren't we doing it more? Like, these are just basic questions that I've asked myself. So these are not judgment questions at all. These are the questions I ask myself. If I have the capability to speak hope into someone, why am I not doing it more? If I have the ability to speak life into someone, why am I not doing it more? And that's the challenge for me. And my hope is that challenge will rub off on other people, because I think every single one of us has this power. I think every single one of us can receive it, and every single one of us can share it. So this transformation thing, honestly, has changed my life. It's changed my family's lives. It's changed the other people that I've walked this out with. And I see it as a ripple effect. I think it's one-on-one. It's one person to another person. Then that person goes away changed. And then they tell their story to another person. And hopefully that person walks away with something new and possibly can change. And then it just becomes this ripple effect. Can you imagine what we could do to our society if this just kept rippling out and we kept changing each other for the good by speaking into each other, by living in community in good and positive ways? I mean, wow, what would the world be?
It'd be a heck of a lot nicer place than it is right now.
It
But
certainly would.
it would be so empowering, and people would feel greater sense of harmony and community, as opposed to, it feels like right now we're so in turmoil all the time.
Absolutely. Like, that's the beauty of community. Community has the word unity in it. We would be unified if we spoke kindness, if we spoke power, if we saw someone, like, there's a lot of rage going on right now in so many pocket groups of society, right? People are just, feels like people are constantly fighting. If we were able to allow someone with their rage and all the hard things, to interact with us, and again do that mental exercise of saying, okay, so is this my trigger or is this their issue? And if you can do that and see that it's their issue, then that frees you, that unhooks you. So that gives you an opportunity to speak into their rage. And rage usually comes from needing protection or hurting very badly. Those are usually the two roots that I have seen connected to rage. When people feel threatened, when they feel unprotected, or when they're deeply wounded. So what if we took the ability and the power, like I've said, that we have to speak to plants and speak positively and watch them grow and actually heal? What if we took someone in a moment of rage and spoke kindness to them and spoke power to them? Maybe even shared a little bit of love, a little bit of hope, a little bit of truth. What are we doing to that person? We're practically doing the same thing to them that we would do to a plant. So are we depositing goodness, and are we depositing a power that might actually be like a salve to their wound that they are raging against? Would it not possibly open the door to unity? I mean, these are things that I'm attempting. These are things that I'm trying. I haven't changed the world yet, but I feel like I can make an impact one person at a time. And I feel like I have. And my hope is that those that have impacted me and I've impacted them, that they're going out and doing the same. But I believe that we are intended to live in community. And in that middle of that word is unity. And I think we are supposed to live in unity. And I think if we find those places to choose our words wisely, to choose our words with kindness and out of love, like genuine love. I may not agree with you. I may be completely different from you, but that doesn't mean you're not human. And it doesn't mean that you can't be affected by my kind words, because all humans can be affected, just like plants.
Reminds me of a couple things. Dr. Emoto's work that he did with water, speaking over water, and the crystals would form in different ways.
Yes.
Just that how our thoughts and prayers and words, how powerful those are. And when we think about it, I mean, typically we're about 70% water ourselves. So how does that affect our bodies?
Absolutely. I find this kind of science, and yes, I am crossing, the supernatural and science. I do think that they actually go hand in hand. Some people don't want to see that, but I think it's there and it's starting to be proven. Especially like what you're talking about in vibrations, vibrations exist in everything. And I think that vibrations are how our bodies react and respond. And it can be good vibrations, good old Beach Boys there, or it can be negative vibrations. And I think the good vibrations actually help things heal and help things change in a positive way. And words have vibrations. Sound has vibrations. Everything is connected. We're all made of energy, and it's positive energy or it's negative energy. Those are your two options. And so because we are made of energy, because we do vibrate, we do have power as human beings. And I think this actually can tap into a little bit of quantum physics. Quantum physics is such an interesting theory, and it's probably beyond theory at this point because I think they've proven a lot of this. And no, I am not going to claim to know a lot about quantum physics, but the surface parts that I do know is our thoughts and our words can actually change electrons and protons and atoms, and it actually shifts them and moves them. And they've proven that. So if our thoughts have power, how much more power does our words have? And that's just mind-blowing to me. Like, this is science. I'm not making anything up. And it's also crossing over into what we would call the supernatural or the spirit world, things that are unseen, things that we can't quite touch. But that doesn't make them not exist. They actually do exist. And I do think that they affect each other. I think there are things that happen in the spirit world that can absolutely affect us in the physical world. And I think that we as humans, if we could realize that our physical world, we can actually change the things in the spirit world, when I say spirit world, yes, there's definitely a spirit world, but spirit world affects our emotions and our beliefs more than people really want to believe. So when I say, in my life right now, I've mentioned that I've lost my home to a flood. Right now, my husband and I are in the process of rebuilding our home. Well, as we're rebuilding our home, I've had this spiritual journey that is actually parallel to what's going on with my home. There's been so much devastation in my life, and there's been so much loss in my life that I'm actually physically rebuilding a new life. The action of rebuilding my home is, for me, an action of my faith of what I believe. And what I believe is I have the ability to build a better life. I have the ability to build a happier, peaceful life. So as I'm building the foundation of my home, I actually speak positive words over it. I speak the truth that I've learned through these past 10 years, and I'm depositing that out into the spirit world, going, this will be a new future for me. This will be a restoration for me and my family. We will come out of this whole and happy and restored. So for me, this is my action in the physical, believing it's going to affect the supernatural in my life. And again, I believe it's the other way around too. I believe that the supernatural, where when I say sit quietly and meditate and listen for the truth, those truths come from the spirit world, and then I can apply them to my life and completely shift my physical life in a positive way. So I think they're intertwined. I know that scientists are going to have a hard time with this. But I've experienced too much to deny it.
Well, I think there's a lot of science that's actually proving that now. I recently heard a discussion on the Joe Rogan show with Terrence Howard. And my goodness, he went into just the scientific applications of vibration and color and tone. And so while it may seem like it's supernatural, I believe a lot of science is becoming supernatural right now.
Yes. Yes, I'm loving all the new information that's coming out. I feel like for me, I kind of giggle inside. I'm like, oh, finally, science is catching up to my weirdness.
I know, finally. It's like all the things that we've talked about and they talk about in the East. It's like things that have been known for thousands of years. Now they're catching up.
Yeah, I don't know why and I don't know how, but I think our Western culture just lost out on a lot of wisdom. I do believe the East tapped into this in such a beautiful way so long ago. Not really sure where we lost it, but we certainly did. And we live in a culture that doesn't easily embrace it. And so, yeah, when I call it my weirdness, yeah, I'm definitely not normal in my circles, and thankfully, my people love me anyway. But I think that our culture has just been denied what has already been out there, and I would love to see the Western culture come alive with it again. I think it's a super powerful understanding, and I think we're all missing out on it.
I would think that your friends love you more because you bring that element with, to the discussions, just with everything that you do, because I'm sure it presses against the boundaries of some belief systems. And maybe it's having them question their own sense of self and happiness.
Well, I would hope. We would have to interview my friends to see if I annoy them or or if I challenge them. And I will admit I am an 8 on the Enneagram for anyone who's listening that knows what that is. I like a challenge. And so I don't mind being weird. I don't mind being different. I don't mind pushing boundaries. I don't do it in a negative way. I always do it to challenge myself or someone else to be a better person.
I think I have one more question here that it's just been kind of on my mind as we've had our discussion today. And we talk about just memories and healing. One of the things that comes into my mind is a lot of times we're carrying the baggage, just not our own baggage, but
Mm.
our parents and their parents and their parents and so on. It's all this learned behavior that we're kind of trudging along through life with. Is that something that we can work on with this spiritual practice?
Oh my gosh, absolute yes. Absolute yes. So the anger and the rage that I've mentioned is definitely generational for me. It goes back pretty far. I'm slightly embarrassed to say, because I don't want to speak ill against my family, but it is the challenge for my family for many, many generations. Um, I do believe, and I feel like my life has proven that we can actually break those generational curses. And I do believe that they are curses. Sometimes those curses come out of bad decisions from someone in our past. And I want to make it very clear that we can actually bring on curses on ourselves here in the present as well. And that's why I want to be very careful with my words and my actions. But yes, absolutely. We can be struggling with something that has cursed our family and our lineage. And that is actually what I have written about in the book Caretaker. My husband and I, um, and not to expose too much for my husband, he can speak on his behalf if you want to interview him. But he too comes from a very, very violent childhood. And when we got married, which we were 18 and 19, we looked at each other and of course we absolutely loved each other and we wanted to do our lives together. But I clearly remember both of us just looking at each other and going, let's get out of here. Let's get away from this. I want to start over a new life with you, and I want to do it differently. And it was a declaration that we both made to each other. And so we left our hometowns and started over fresh because we did not want to participate in what our families had done from the past. Now, it took me a while, to go through my journey of finding the freedom of that, but I got there, and I'm still getting there with other bits in my life. But it was a choice that my husband and I made, and we all have the capability with that choice. We all have this choice where we can go, man, I don't like what I see in me. Oh, I see it in my parents. Oh, I heard it was in my grandparents too. Geez, like when you start to put the dots together and you can see that they're all connected, that's how you know you are struggling with something that was cursed on your family generations past. Well, just because it was doesn't mean you have to participate anymore. You are not under that curse. You can get out of that curse. You can break that curse off of your life. And then you can also break the curse off of your future generations. And I have actually walked that out with my children as well. I saw that same anger popping up in one of my kids, and I did this practice over them when they were young. So it was something that I kind of walked out. That's not something they could participate in, but I walked it out in the spirit world of kind of like the same thing I just discussed with rebuilding my life, of doing something in the physical, believing that I'm affecting the supernatural. And I did that over my children. I made a declaration here in the physical. I made changes in my life. I chose to do it differently. And that is in the hopes, in the belief that I have broken that off my children and then off my children's children and so on and so forth. And I can honestly say my children do not struggle with anger and rage the way that I did. And so I believe it worked, and I will always believe that worked. You can't change my mind.
Well, when it works, and I mean, you get this feeling that it has moved on and you've moved through it.
Yeah, it's a freedom that I just keep referencing. I know that word can mean so many different things to other people, but there is a lightness, a lifting of weight that wasn't intended to be there in the first place. That's the freedom I'm talking about. Your whole countenance changes, your whole posture changes, your thoughts change. Everything changes because you have let go of that, whatever it is that you've been carrying, whether it's yours or whether it was your family's or whether it's your spouse's. Like we end up carrying a lot of things that aren't ours. But when we gain that true freedom, it's like you said, there's this connection that you know. For me, I always say it's the connection of my brain and my heart. Sometimes my brain is really smart, but my heart won't believe it. And it's that moment when the brain and the heart line up and you just know that you know. That's that true freedom that I keep referencing and talking about. That's what I have received, and I believe everybody can receive.
What a gift that is. My goodness, Rhonda, I mean, we don't have a problem talking. I mean, we can do this for hours. So I feel like you're such an inspiration, and your journey, and not only, of course, your book, Caretaker, is helping so many people. Where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
Well, you can follow me and my husband, Jason. We are RJ Halbert. We wrote the book together. So we took our first initials and created a pen name. So we are RJ Halbert. You can find us on social media and on our website, rjhalbert.com. If anyone's interested in the book Caretaker, you can order it directly from our website. You can also order it from, all the basic places of Amazon and barnesandnoble.com and, all the usuals. It's pretty easy to find now. We just finished another printing of it because we completely sold out the first day that it was released, which was just mind blowing. But I promise we are all caught up now. Books are available. And then also, yeah, I love talking all things spiritual. Like you said, you and I think we could talk about this for hours, and it actually brings me life. It brings me energy. I get super excited. So, if you want to reach out, you can DM RJ Halbert on Instagram and ask me any question you want. I'm not afraid to dive in and answer anything. So throw it at me. I'll go for it.
Well, my goodness, Rhonda, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me back. I really, truly feel honored. And this is like so weird for me to dive into the spiritual side of my life. I'm usually a pretty private person, but I think this book, Caretaker, really encouraged me that I have some things to share, and I think it's some things that might help some people along the way because it saved my life. My hope is that it might save someone else's. So thank you for giving me the platform to do something brave that I've never done before.
Well, thank you, Rhonda. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about the spirituality behind the hot new release, Caretaker. Every time a printing of Caretaker happens, they sell out. So make sure to pick up your copy of Caretaker at rjhalbert.com. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.